want to captivate, at least try to captivate everything that has been implanted. Amen. 6:6 of Galatians all the way to 10 says, let him who is taught the word share it in all good things with him who teaches. Do not be deceived. God is not mocked, but whatsoever man soweth, that he will also reap. For he soweth to his flesh will of the flesh reap corruption, but he who sows to the Spirit will of the Spirit reap everlasting life. Let us not grow weary while doing good, for in due season we shall reap if we do not lose heart. Therefore, as we all have opportunity, let us do good to all, especially to those who are of the household of faith. That's us. Amen. I think that for just a little bit, I would like to talk about inviolable law, God's inviolable law. And I hope that maybe I could explain it a little better as we go along. But, you know, there's a lot of things that we could ask a series of false or true statements. So what if I were to tell you right now that if you eat a diet of foods with high fat, cholesterol, and calories, you will lose weight? The answer to that is probably no. By the way, especially if you overeat every day. How about if you drink 2 bottles of vodka for a couple hours, you will not get drunk? That be a right statement? No. How about if you never sleep, you will never be tired? False. How about if you jump off the church roof and go up instead of going down? False. There's a lot of things, amen, that we may not particularly think about, but false is false. And it all based on the inviolable law. The inviolable law is the law that is incapable of being violated. Is incapable. What you see is what you get. What you hear is what you're going to hear. But in the book of Galatians, as we read in verse 7, Paul introduces us to God's inviolable law. This inviolable law is whatsoever a man sows, that shall he also reap. In other words, choices and actions have consequences. In other words, every action there is always a reaction and a consequence that follow. And you know, and I know, that we understand that this is the word of life. This is the mind of God on paper. And so when you look at this and you say, well, if I follow this, I will live right. I will be happy. I will be successful. But the enforcer of this inviolable law in verse 7 tells us, do not be deceived. God is not mocked. What a man soweth, so shall he reap, right? The Buddhists, the Hindus believe in a concept called karma. You ever heard people say, there's karma? That's not what Paul is talking about or teaching, that a man reaps what he sows. Paul is not teaching the law of karma. He's also talking about an impersonal system. Rather, he tells us that God is at the heart of the inviolable law of sowing and reaping. God is one who is established the law. He is the one who enforces the law. He is the one of sowing and reaping. He created it. He's the one that put it in motion. The biggest mistake that we can make is to believe that we could somehow be exempt from this law of reaping what we sow. But in Galatians 6 says, Paul tells us, again, be not deceived. God is not mocked. In other words, don't be fooled into thinking that you can be exempt from this rule. How many times have we thought that we could get away with doing something wrong? Anybody? Well, nobody's watching. God is, he's not even in your mind because you don't want him in your mind. But you know you're doing something wrong. You know that you know, but we still do it. What is that? We're still doing it because pastor's not around or because the ministers are not around. You can't get away with it. A person who has, let's say, we're all adults here. Oh well. A person that thinks for a minute that he could have premarital situation, as long as I don't get a child, I'm okay. As long as I don't get a transmitted, I'm okay. A person who thinks he's sure that he will never become an alcoholic. Never. But I could drink. As long as nobody sees me, as long as I don't bother nobody. Everything in life, brethren, has consequences. Everything. By the same principle, we must understand that by doing good, we will reap positive benefits. Yes, we will. God rewards those who seek him. Is that right? This law of the harvest is inescapable because God is the one who enforces it. I want to take my time simply because this is a subject that needs to be addressed. Now in verse 8, notice what he says here. For he who sows to the flesh, of the flesh reap corruption, but he that sows to the Spirit will of the Spirit reap everlasting life. We sow to the flesh and reap destruction. That is what's happening here today in our world. I thought about what happened with this. You heard about the shooting. I didn't know this, but this girl wants to be a boy. So what does that have to do with little babies? But there's an evil scenario that's happening around our world today. It's unbelievable. But I just threw that in there. But that broke my heart because these are innocent children. So if you want to be a boy, just be a boy and be done with it. Paint a mustache or something. Do something. But don't kill innocent children. But when we sow to the flesh,